Questions, comments, current events, things that will make us smarter. If I can heard it from my dog. Just kidding. Hope everybody's doing okay. I just want to start previewing some of Chapter 4 out of Civil Liberties for us. And it's really today we're going to tackle the biggest concept out of it. And that is, look how high-tech I am, Selective Incorporation. So there's this whole thing, if you go back to the whole debate between anti-feds and federalists, that anti-federalists wanted protection from the national government, and they got that in the Bill of Rights. The problem was the Bill of Rights only protects you from the national government because it's in the national constitution. States could still infringe on your rights. I know it seems weird, but you need to be protected from both levels of government. So freedom of speech protects you from the national government taking away your freedom of speech, but it does not necessarily protect you from the state of Michigan taking away your freedom of speech if it's only in the Constitution. So for a long time, the Supreme Court interpreted that the Bill of Rights only applied to the national government. Well, that's not good if the states want to infringe on your rights. So we came up in this one case called Gitlow v. New York with the Selective Incorporation. And here's how you remember it. Like Little John, Gitlow, he's going to bring the First Amendment and all the amendments down low to the states. From Michigan to California, all them states get rights. What all them states gets right? I'm going to regret that. I really am. But I do it in class. I've got a whole song. It's really funny. Okay. So why don't we just bring all the rights down at one time? Well, if you remember back to the court unit, we learned that the Supreme Court cannot deal in hypotheticals. The Supreme Court must deal with a case that is in front of it right at that time. So the Supreme Court, one right at a time, one civil liberty at a time, says that these apply down to the states. The first one was freedom of speech with Gitlow. The state was limiting, I think it was like communist or something, things that could be handed out during war. And the Supreme Court ruled that the First Amendment does apply to the states. But not just the First Amendment in general, just the freedom of speech is brought down to the states for that protection. So again, it is selective because you can only do one right and liberty at a time based on the case that you are hearing, and it is incorporation because we are incorporating the Bill of Rights down to the state level. So if you have a freedom of religion case, right, it would incorporate either the Establishment Clause or the Free Exercise Clause, right? So let's say I'm a part of the Native American Church, right? And if you're part of the Native American Church, you can use peyote for religious practices. That would be free exercise that would come down. So selective incorporation, case by case, right by right, brings the Bill of Rights down to the state level. And there's a pretty good chart on page 89 that breaks down what cases have incorporated which amendments. It's like the third's never been incorporated, parts of the fifth with the grand jury, parts of the seventh, well, all of the seventh has never been incorporated, and parts of the eighth, pretty much everything else. The Second Amendment, I think, is still the most recent one to get incorporated, and that was with Chicago v. McDonald, which said that you can't have handgun bans. So selective incorporation is a pretty big concept to understand for our test, especially since it's in Unit 3, and we know that's going to be on the exam. So again, Bill of Rights protected us from the national government, but what about the states who weren't also protecting those same things? The U.S. Supreme Court, one at a time, brings them down based on the case to give us more protection. Think about it like in school, right? You might be protected from Miss Bogan doing something to you, but if you don't have that same protection from me, I can exploit you, right? Or I could change rules and kind of make it so it's hard for you to do things. So this way you have protections from both levels of government that are in charge of you. So that's kind of a big one. And then that's all through the 14th Amendment, right? It's the best amendment that we have. Both parts of it, the Due Process Clause and the Equal Protection Clause, are going to be big for this unit here, right? Due process really helps you out with your civil liberties. That's the avenue to bring down the amendments to the state level because everybody's guaranteed that same due process or protection of law. And then when we get to civil rights, it's the equal protection portion that's going to make sure that we're all treated equally from each other. Here's something big, too. Let's remember, as I erase here, the difference between civil liberties and civil rights. Civil liberties, I want you to think the third best Avenger. Debate has begun. Captain America. And for civil rights, I want you to think Jenny. Civil liberties are your protections from the government. Okay? Civil liberties are in the Bill of Rights. The government cannot take away your speech. The government cannot impose a religion. The government cannot tell you this, that, or the other. Right? Captain America in, why am I blanking on it now? Civil War. Okay, he was protecting you and the Avengers from unnecessary government intrusion into the registry for the Avengers, right? So think of his shield as protecting you from the government trying to take away your rights or force things upon you. Okay, where civil rights is basically protecting us from other jerks in society. Think Forrest Gump. Little Forrest gets on the bus, can't sit here, Sate's tyke, and jerks everywhere, right? Until Jenny, you can sit here, Forrest. And then him and Jenny were like peas and carrots, right? So civil liberties are protections from the government, like Captain America, because Team Cap was right. And civil rights are like Jenny, because she's not treating you like a jerk, okay? And then tomorrow we'll start tackling bits and pieces, each amendment. Tomorrow we'll look at freedom of speech and freedom of religion. That's the two biggest avenues there. And then we'll kind of go through your second, your fourth, and your fifth amendments as well. Hope everybody's doing good. Again, review Selective Incorporation, know the difference between civil liberties and civil rights, and we'll have more videos to come. See you guys.